Box office interests vary around the world. In fact, in the UK, they have a very different set of interests that may not overlap those of us here in the United States who are hardcore into tentpole superhero films. Well, today we're going to dive into and explore some of those differences and interests and see where we come out in the end. I have a guest joining me today, so stick around. Here we go. Now, before we get started, very quickly, just a quick reminder to double check you're still subscribed to the channel. Double check that you are hitting that thumbs up button because the likes are important. And don't forget to comment on each and everything that we do here. Now, let me introduce my guest. It is the amazing Beau the History Bro. Good afternoon, Beau. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm spectacular, but here's the weird thing, and we talked a little bit before we got started on the fact that maybe there's a varying interest culturally between what we're into and maybe things that we're not. And to start out this conversation today, I want to talk about a film that I believe here in the United States is going to be a summer sleeper and do rather well. I believe it is produced by Apple Plus for their streaming service, but it's going to hit theaters first, and it's going to do it in a big way because it's going to a lot of premium theaters and large screen formats all across the United States. It also has a haptic trailer, which means if you have an iPhone and you watch the trailer on there, it does all kind of buzzing and jiggling and all kinds of things like that to put you in the middle of the race. Beau, is this an acceptable movie for those of you in the UK?
The F1 movie?
Yeah.
Well, we shall see. Obviously, it's not out yet on full release, but I've seen trailers. I've seen various people reviewing it, people that have seen a viewing. A few people have been allowed, and I've seen them talk about it. I'm looking forward to it. I've got my fingers crossed. I love F1. I'm like really nerdy about F1. It's my favourite sport by a long way. When I was a kid, I was massively into football. My whole life was football or soccer, not American football, soccer. But as I've got older, I'm less and less interested in football and more interested in F1, to the point where I will, it sounds really sad, but I'll happily sit down and watch like the 1971 Monaco Grand Prix unabridged, the whole thing. Like the history of Formula One, I'm fascinated with. I've made a couple of bits of content over the years about the history of Formula One. So, okay, put that all aside. I love Formula One and the history of it, and all racing, really. So this should be right in my wheelhouse. The only reservation I've got is, well, a couple of reservations. First one is, often racing films can be crap. Not always, every single one of them are, but often they don't capture it properly. They don't do it properly, often. But this one looks like, from what I've seen, early reviews and things, it looks like it's pretty good, about as good as it could be. I mean, we'll get into some details about how closely they worked with F1 and the shooting of it, and Lewis Hamilton being a producer and all sorts of things. The other reservation is just that, being a real nerd about F1, I know for a fact that it won't be able to capture the real thing, right? With the best will in the world.
So this is the film we're talking about right now. This article from the Hollywood Reporter is a few days old at this point, but a lot of people have seen this, and as you noted, you know some people who've seen this, and of course, you probably want to share with folks here in a moment exactly what was going on in the background so they can make this happen. But when you look at this particular film, it's coming out here in the States on June 27th. They, I believe, utilized some actual track time during trials at some various points, and that Brad Pitt and this other fellow were in the car. Now, you mentioned a name, Mr. Cunningham, who is kind of a superstar, a legend, and in a way was involved in F1 for a long time. Oh, I'm sorry, Hamilton, excuse me.
Oh, Hamilton, right.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So Lewis Hamilton, multiple-time world champion. He's still driving. He drives for Ferrari right now. He's still in it. He's one of the oldest guys on the grid, and he was a producer on it. And they got loads of track time all last season. I think even right at the beginning of this season, but certainly for a lot of last season, they were driving these fake Formula One cars around the track, like in between race sessions and on the Saturday after the qualifying, and driving past the actual crowds on race day and things. So they did a lot of filming actually on Formula One race weekends. So yeah, it's in that sense, I think, and from the reviews I've seen, it's sort of hyper authentic, and that's what someone like me, a real race fan, it wants more than anything else. I want it to be authentic, and I think that they're going to do that quite well. But we'll see. We'll see. I did see one review. Someone interviewed Carlos Sainz Jr., a current Formula One driver, ex-Ferrari, and he's now at Williams. And he said it does look really authentic. There's a couple of little bits that if you're a massive nerd, you will notice are incorrect, but mostly it's really authentic. So I'm looking forward to it. I've got my fingers crossed. The only other reservation I've got is that there's a bit of wokeness to it. Like crowbarring in the black drivers. Not that there's no black drivers. Lewis Hamilton, for example. But got to make the star a young black dude. There's a love interest, I believe. They make out that the team principal, i.e. the boss, the manager of the team, is a woman. There's been precedent for that as well. Claire Williams was. But yeah, they make the boss a woman, a girl boss. And I'm pretty sure they make her a love interest of Brad Pitt at one point. So I'm not interested in any of that, right? That part of the movie, I'll just get through and watch it, but I don't care about that. I just want to see how they depict racing, if we get some cool scenes with racing.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very impressive film. I think it'll catch on with a lot of people here in the States. So we do have some crossing of cultural interest for sure. We also have a superstar in Brad Pitt playing Sonny Hayes to Mr. Damson Idris's Joshua Pierce. And so far, a lot of the reviews are very positive. So I think that when it opens here in the States on June 27th, it's going to be a banger. Whereas what we've got right now in the theaters isn't so interesting. And of course, right after this film comes out, just a week or two away from it, is something of a U.S. specific film. And this is where I wanted to get into the differences here, because I think that you and I are keenly different when it comes to what we're interested in with pop culture. I don't watch so much football as you do, and I certainly don't watch very much. I do watch some F1, but not a lot. What I do seem to find spending my time on, or at least until the sudden terribleness of all of this after the end of Endgame, is superhero films. For example, Superman is about to come out here shortly in the United States and globally as well. And it's speculated that it's going to open very poorly at $90 million up to $125 million plus. And those numbers are very disappointing for a superhero film. In fact, those would place it, I believe, behind possibly films like Captain America Brave New World and others as far as opening in North America. Globally, the number is going to be much higher, but for how long? So I'm going to ask you straight up, and this is a very important question. What are your feelings towards Superman and superhero films in general?
Yeah, not a massive fan. I don't mind them. If they're done well, and they're done, and some of the early ones anyway, are done really well, then yeah, that's fine. It's a good film. It's a good yarn. It's a good ripping yarn. Fine, I'll sit through that. But as for being bombarded by dozens of them, no, not so much. But that's just me personally. I mean, I know they do still make lots and lots of money. I mean, Superman specifically, right? We're sort of the same age, roughly. I mean, I grew up with those Christopher Reeves.
The films from the 70s, the Donner films. And those have been playing internationally for decades now at this point, and those are that's the greatest touchstone we all have to what Superman was supposed to be or represent at the time. And when you look at this is the very first film coming out of the Gunn DC Studios that he runs with Peter Safran. And this is got to be a winner. here in the States and internationally. And would you say that you represent a healthy chunk of the UK citizenry when it comes to interest in this particular product? Or do you think that you're going to have healthy receipts at the box office in the UK?
Yeah, I don't know. If I had to guess, I would say I'm probably a bit more cynical than the average person, or a bit less interested than perhaps the average person. I mean, Superman, for me, you talk about the difference between US and UK. I mean, Superman is very, very specifically American, isn't it? I mean, the American culture is so all pervasive across the whole world. I mean, honestly, you can go to the jungles of Southeast Asia, and there's a little kid with like a fake Lakers top on, you know. So American culture is all pervasive, and in Britain massively so. Ever since the war, World War II, I mean, we are culturally in your guy's shadow. But Superman is, you know, even more American than some others. You know, specifically sort of New York even. I don't mind Superman films. I don't mind them at all. I don't hate them. That would be far too strong. But like, do I need a whole new reboot of Superman in my life? No, not at all. But again, that is just me. I'm sure that there's lots of Superman fans in the UK. There are. I mean, he's the original, right? He's the original.
Well, he's one of the very beginning subjects of Detective Comics way back when, which had Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman. They had the trilogy, whereas Marvel kind of relied primarily upon Spider-Man and all the heroes that would follow. Those were all the names or the faces that go with those particular different companies between DC and Marvel. But at the same time, this is not looking good as an opening, because when you look at the last Superman-related film that was a solo film, Man of Steel, that opened to 116.6 million many years ago in 2013, at a time when that would have been much higher after inflation, if you were counting today's money. So it ultimately, that film rounded out at 670 million worldwide, but here in the States it only made 291 million. In other words, it wasn't a massive success. So when we look at the comparables, right, between then and now, you know, a decade plus 2 years later, 12 years later, you're looking at a film that could do far less at the box office cinema interest, not only here in the States, but around the globe. I don't know. We talk an awful lot, you and I, about pop culture in a couple of different places. And I have to ask you, do you think that the cinemas are in danger of completely falling out? Like, we'll lose them? Do you think that because of this lack of interest in all of these more recent films, we've seen just a few winners in the box office recently? Or do you think we're just kind of in the middle of some kind of a shift that the cinemas will be able to bounce back from and recover?
Well, I mean, I can only give you an opinion. Obviously, I can't see the future, but I would guess that the cinema won't die entirely. It will just become more and more niche. You know, so when you look back at the interwar years, or the 1940s, 1950s, even into the 60s and 70s, cinema was a massive thing. Going to the flicks was a massive thing that everyone did. And it's just not the case anymore with the amount of media you can get. It's just. But I don't think it will die entirely. I remember when people said, when the internet first became sort of a thing, or internet shopping, people would say it's the death of the high street. You won't get any more shops on the high street anymore. Well, that was just a massive exaggeration, wasn't it? I mean, it's true that high street retail is much less than it used to be. It's not the death of all shops. I think the same is with cinema. It won't be the death of cinema. You'll still be able to go to the cinema if you want to. There'll just be that you'll only have a cinema in bigger cities, and they'll be a lot more empty than they always used to be. I don't think it will die. I think there'll always be people, a fair amount of people, that want to have an evening out, even if it's really expensive. They want to have an evening out and go and sit in a communal area and watch a giant screen, because it is fun, right? It is good, it is nice. even though I go very, very rarely these days. But last 2 or 3 times I did go to cinema in the last year or two, I sort of enjoyed myself. I enjoyed the experience. You know, going to the IMAX, a film that you really like, and if it is a visual treat, going to the IMAX, that's great. I don't think that will die, but I just think, you know, it's not going to be a staple of nearly everyone's Saturday night like it used to be decades ago. That's what I think will probably be.
No, I'm with you. I think exactly the same way. I think it's going to become less and less of a commonplace thing and more of a special treat. I think you're right. And especially when you're looking for visual spectacles, you're going to go to the premium large format screens like IMAX and the 4D theaters and, you know, the moving extreme theaters and stuff. I think
like I'm going to make the effort to watch that F1 on IMAX.
Oh, I think that's probably the only way to see it. I mean, they actually filmed it for IMAX, so I think it should be a joyful experience for both you and I. But on that note, I think we can wrap it up here and ask our audience, are you looking forward to these films? No matter where you live, whether it be the UK, tell us if we're wrong about our perspectives coming out of other countries and what the expectations are for films like F1 on one end of the spectrum and superhero films on the other, because I want to know what you think about Superman. On that note, I am very grateful that Beau chose to join me today to record this video. You can check out Beau the History Bro over on YouTube, and you can follow him at BeauDade on X, where he is a joy to follow because he says some wonderfully hysterical and triggering things. On that note, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya! Maybe in the UK.